Where do dads keep all their jokes? In a database. Today, I'm going to recap a 2010 action fantasy film called The Warrior's Way. Many years ago, in a distant land, a warrior called Jang trained with the Sad Flute clan from his youth, aiming to be the most skilled swordsman ever. He managed to defeat the rival clan's chief and his fighters, but hesitated to kill the chief's infant daughter. This act turned his own clan against him, because to truly win, every member of the opposing clan had to die, including the child. Facing the wrath of the Sad Flute and unable to trust anyone, including his maid, Jang destroys his home and sails to the USA, seeking refuge with his old comrade, Smiley. Upon reaching the town of Lode, Jang learns that Smiley passed away 3 years prior. Back in Jang's homeland, his mentor, Saddest Flute, discovers evidence of Jang's departure and resolves to pursue him to America, assembling a group of their clan's fighters. In Lode, the residents are suspicious of Jang, especially Ron, the town's drunk. However, 8-Ball, a member of the local circus, befriends Jang and directs him to Smiley's former laundry shop, suggesting he stay there with the child. That night, a woman, Lynne, assaults Jang, mistaking him for a foe of Smiley. Upon clarifying the misunderstanding and learning of Jang's connection with Smiley, Lynne offers to instruct him in laundry operations so he can run the shop. She knows the ropes as she once helped Smiley in return for swordsmanship lessons. As Jang didn't know the infant's name, Lynne names her April. After cleaning the shop from years of neglect, Jang opens for business the following day. When local teens attempt to intimidate him, 8-Ball intervenes, inviting Jang and April to a meal at the circus. The performers are constructing a Ferris wheel, anticipating it'll attract more visitors. Jang observes Lynne's poor knife-throwing skills, dampening her spirits. Although Ron remains vocal about his disapproval of Jang, the other troop members warmly welcome him. During twilight, Jang approaches Lynne's residence and is captivated by the unfamiliar strains of music he hears. Noticing his presence, Lynne invites him inside to share the experience of opera music. This becomes Jang's initial step in embracing the ordinary pleasures of life, a journey that continues to expand. As time progresses, Jang begins to cherish the simple joys, such as maintaining cleanliness, forming bonds, collaborating with locals, participating in games, relishing moments of solitude post a day's labor, admiring sunsets, and cultivating a garden. The latter becomes his treasured activity, symbolizing creation over destruction. One day, spotting Lynne at the town's graveyard, Jang inquires 8-Ball about her history. He learns that years ago, a wicked colonel, seeking to amuse himself, targeted a younger Lynne. Seeking seclusion, he led her to a kitchen, where Lynne, seizing an opportunity, hurled scalding grease onto his visage. As Lynne fled, she was shot by the colonel. When her family attempted to retrieve her, they too were shot down. It was only later, during burial preparations, that the townspeople realized Lynne had miraculously survived. That evening, Jang witnesses Lynne's frustration over her inaccurate aim while playfully tossing stones. Recognizing the root of her pent-up anger, Jang offers guidance, bringing her to the circus grounds for knife-throwing lessons. He pinpoints that her true obstacle isn't physical, but rather her concentration. To test this, he blindfolds Lynne and challenges her to throw knives at him. She manages to land each throw flawlessly without causing harm. Grateful, Lynne addresses him as Sad Flute, indicating she was always aware of his identity through tales from Smiley. Curious, she inquires about the clan's name. Jang reveals the morbid origin, explaining that the gurgling sound of a slit throat is likened to a mournful flute. Lynne further questions Jang's initial involvement with the clan. Jang recounts the tragic story of his father's demise at the hands of a swordsman, spurring a young, resentful Jang to seek strength and power. Observing Jang's melancholy, Lynne bestows upon him a cherished necklace previously owned by her mother. This gesture evokes a poignant memory in Jang, a rare gift from his youth when his mentor, Saddest Flute, presented him with a puppy. Subsequently, Jang unveils his single-edged sword to Lynne, which he has rendered unusable by binding it to its sheath, ensuring its grim past remains dormant. However, he possesses twin short blades, which he employs to resume Lynne's combat tutelage, an activity that Ron observes with intrigue. Simultaneously, Saddest, Flute, and his clan forcefully commandeer a ship, slaughtering its crew. Despite America's vastness, Saddest Flute remains undaunted, confident that he'll detect Jang when he inevitably unsheaths his sword again. In Lode, Jang's tranquil existence persists. He confronts the town's adolescents' mischief, tends to townspeople's laundry, nurtures his thriving garden, mentors Lynne, and oversees baby April's first toddling steps. As Christmas approaches, the circus ensemble organizes a grand festivity. While Jang partakes, he declines to dance. Lynne's request for a dance metamorphoses into a sparring session, during which she momentarily bests Jang, seizing the moment to plant a kiss on him. Jang, caught off guard, doesn't respond. Suddenly, the colonel, now donning a mask to conceal the scars inflicted by Lynne, descends upon the town with his entourage, wreaking havoc on Jang's garden. The celebratory atmosphere sours as the colonel torments the circus performers, using a clown for shooting practice. As Ron intervenes, the colonel ensnares him with a whip, subjecting him to a cruel dragging ordeal. The colonel's sadism continues when he seeks female companionship for the evening. Anticipating Lynne's retaliatory tendencies, townspeople confine her to a basement, with Jang confiscating her swords. Unbeknownst to them, Lynne possesses a concealed blade in her footwear, enabling her escape. As Jang contemplates unleashing his dormant weapon, the colonel assembles the women, singling out a married lady. Her spouse's protective instincts lead to their tragic demise, drawing their grieving daughters into the colonel's wicked clutches. The colonel's dinner is disrupted by Lynne, disguised as a dancer, who masquerades as a willing participant for his evening's entertainment. However, Lynne's true intentions are to assassinate the colonel. When her escape is unearthed, Jang realizes it's time to break his sword's seal. This act resonates with Saddest Flute, directing him and his clan towards Jang's location. Lynne's covert assassination attempt on the colonel goes awry, as he discerns her true identity from the onset, confronting her with a loaded firearm. The colonel fires a shot towards the ceiling, summoning his men to seize Lynne, intending to force himself upon her. However, Jang's sudden entrance through a window disrupts the situation. He dispatches the colonel's subordinates with ease and is on the verge of eliminating the colonel when Lynne intervenes, declaring her right to deal with the colonel herself. Using Lynne as a human shield, the colonel forces her out through the window and makes his escape, reuniting with his gang. As Lynne pursues, her refined skills enable her to accurately hurl her knife at him, apparently striking him down. However, a closer inspection by the townspeople reveals the fallen man is merely a decoy, and the actual colonel has fled. Realizing the impending threat of Saddest Flute, Jang decides to evacuate the town with April to protect her. 8-Ball, however, argues that leaving is futile, as the vengeful colonel is bound to return with reinforcements. Although the townspeople doubt Jang's solo efforts, 8-Ball reveals an ace up their sleeve, Ron. As it turns out, Ron's previous life as an outlaw meant he had an arsenal of weapons, now buried by 8-Ball in the cemetery. Retrieving them, Ron verifies that his marksmanship remains impeccable. During this, Lynne confides in Jang, expressing her wish to accompany him and April once the turmoil concludes. As Ron hands over his vintage cowboy attire to Jang for cleaning, preparations are made by the townsfolk, setting explosive traps for the colonel's inevitable return. Jang and Ron find common ground, reminiscing about their past transgressions. Ron sensed Jang's violent history due to the metaphorical scent of blood, a sentiment Jang reciprocates regarding Ron. They forge a bond when Ron delves into his past, revealing his exit from his prosperous outlaw life. This decision stemmed from a tragic event where rangers pursuing him killed his beloved wife. Her dying plea was for him to never again take up arms, a vow he's upheld. But the current circumstances demand action, and 8-Ball had reassured Ron that his wife would have understood. Concluding their heart-to-heart, Ron imparts wisdom to Jang, suggesting that if one genuinely cares for someone, they should distance themselves to spare them potential anguish. Subsequently, Jang returns Lynne's swords to her, instructing her on the most effective points to strike for an immediate fatality. His touch, gentle yet intense, sends shivers down Lynne's spine. The ensuing day sees one of the teenagers taking refuge with April in a basement, while Jang positions himself at the town's gateway and Ron establishes his vantage point on the Ferris wheel. As the colonel and his brigade make their entrance, they recklessly trample over the garden, triggering concealed dynamite, resulting in a massive explosion that eliminates several of the colonel's men. The ensuing dust cloud provides Jang with the perfect camouflage, enabling him to discreetly eliminate more foes. Pushing forward, the colonel's forces advance to the circus area, only to be met with exploding carnival apparatus. From his elevated position on the Ferris wheel, Ron takes shots at the assailants. As they attempt to scale the wheel to confront him, circus performers intervene, firing at the intruders. While Jang continues his covert offensive, Ron expends his ammunition and escapes via a zip line. The climactic detonation of the Ferris wheel ensues, causing widespread devastation. Emerging from their hideouts, the circus performers mistakenly believe victory is theirs. However, the colonel, along with a few of his men, has survived. A deadly confrontation ensues, which is further intensified by the unexpected arrival of Saddest Flute and his sword-wielding warriors. As bullets clash with blades, Jang directs Lynne to escape with April, while he plunges into the melee, combating foes from both factions. As the colonel fixates on Lynne and April, they find themselves cornered. In a desperate move, Lynne entrusts April to 8-Ball for safekeeping, while she joins Jang in combat. After dispatching nearby adversaries, the duo's search for 8-Ball culminates in the grim discovery of his demise at the colonel's hands, who has also abducted April. The colonel, using a hotel room as his refuge and barricading himself with guards, soon faces the wrath of advancing Sad Flute warriors. However, it's Jang who breaches the defenses, neutralizing the guards. Within moments, Jang confronts the colonel, deftly disarming him and reclaiming April. Instead of delivering the fatal blow himself, Jang allows Lynne to confront her nemesis. The ensuing duel initially favors the colonel, but Lynne soon gains the upper hand, ultimately vanquishing the colonel, fulfilling her quest for vengeance. Subsequently, a confrontation ensues between Jang and his former mentor, Saddest Flute. The latter remains adamant that April must die, perceiving her as a perpetual adversary. Saddest Flute doubts Jang's ability to combat him, deeming him weak-hearted. He recalls a young Jang's hesitation to obey in order to kill a dog and his inability, as an adult, to harm an infant. However, the determination to shield those he cherishes propels Jang to take the decisive step of eliminating his master. As Saddest Flute meets his end, he conveys his admiration for Jang. With the conflict resolved, Jang prepares for departure. Heeding Ron's counsel, Jang chooses not only to leave Lynne behind, but also entrusts April's care to the circus ensemble, hoping to spare her a life marked by peril. Fast forward a few months, and Jang is seen dwelling in a frigid landscape, sustaining himself through fishing. Unfortunately, this tranquility is disrupted by the presence of an assassin. After dispatching the threat, Jang recovers his sword and the cherished necklace gifted by Lynne. He then sets his dwelling ablaze, destroying it along with a newly acquired opera record. As he departs, he encounters additional adversaries from the Sad Flute clan, indicating that his quest for a peaceful sanctuary remains elusive. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. It would be best if you watched the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.